Thanks very much, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to discuss National Homelessness Week. National Homelessness Week aims to raise awareness of the impact of homelessness and the solutions needed to end homelessness. During the week, homelessness services and community groups educate the community and advocate for change via national and local community events, media and social media activities. In 2023, Homelessness Week was held from Monday, August 7th to Sunday, August 13. The theme for Homelessness Week 23 was "It's time to end homelessness." Thank you to all the wonderful organisations and individuals who hosted events or took action to advocate for to end homelessness, not just in my electorate of Petrie, but right around the country. In my own electorate of Petrie, there's a number of local groups that work to help the homeless. Groups like the Breakfast Club in Redcliffe, Encircle on the Peninsula, Chameleon Youth Housing, the Salvation Army, St Vincent de Paul Society, the Lighthouse Centre in Deception Bay, Tucker Box Ministries run by Baptist churches, as well as Sandbag down in Sandgate and Bracken Ridge. Chameleon Housing, who do a lot for youth in the area in relation to homelessness, recently ran a Housing for Happiness dinner, and I want to congratulate Carmel and all the team at Chameleon for the work they do. And I also want to congratulate Ausbuild, who have made a commitment to them to build a home, if they can provide the land, to build a home for them that will house 4 or 5 young people in need of housing. The MBRIT staged it, the Moreton Bay Region Industry and Tourism, and the dinner would have had probably over 500 people at it, and it raised $110,000 on the night, which gave Chameleon a chest of about $450,000 now to buy land. They still need a little bit more because they need a 600 square metre block. But once this is achieved and the house is built by Ausbuild, you'll have 5 more young people in housing. And why are these young people not housed? Often it's because parents are in jail. They could be on drugs or other addictions. Could be in relation to DV relationships that are causing one partner and the kids to be homeless. Some parents don't care, and there's also generational poverty, where you've got 2 or 3 generations of people that haven't worked, that have been on Centrelink or other sorts of welfare, and it catches up with them and they end up homeless, particularly in the last 12 months with the massive increase in rents and repayments because of 12 interest rate rises. So I do want to thank Chameleon for what they're doing. They're doing an exceptional job. I'd like to talk quickly a little bit about what the coalition government did in government, what the former coalition government did in government, because at the end of the day we had a very good record. The coalition actually reduced acute homelessness between 2016 and 2021. Homelessness actually fell. So in the 2016 census, there was 8,200 people that were homeless. These are people that are rough sleeping, living in tents in 2016. In 2021, there was 7,636. So despite an increase in the population, acute homelessness dropped. Also, people in severely crowded dwellings also reduced. In 2016 in the census, there was 51,088 people living in severely overcrowded dwellings, and after 5 years of the coalition government, that fell to 47,895. And there was also people staying temporarily with others, couch surfing, it's commonly known as. That also reduced under the coalition government from 17,725 in 2016 down to 16,597. And I say that because often the government, the Labor government, think they have all the answers when it comes to this space. But the reality is that since they've come to office in the last 16 months, homelessness has gone through the roof. That's their record, through the roof, with 11 interest rate rises under them. So what that means is that middle-income families, mums and dads paying off their mortgages, have seen their mortgages double under the Labor Albanese government, and everyone that rents in my electorate and around the country has seen their rents increase, all under a Labor government. The Greens have some crazy idea about freezing rents, but they don't want to freeze all the costs associated with it. They don't want to freeze the repayments on the houses that investors have. They don't want to freeze the rates. They don't want to freeze the insurance that's gone through the roof. So I just say to people that homelessness was reducing. The next census will be in 2026, and if the Albanese government does get a second term, they'll be responsible for all of that period. It'll be interesting to see what it is then, because right now I'm seeing acute homelessness going through the roof. The other thing is that the Minister Julie Collins, needs to look at the homelessness figures in the census, which was 123,000 people, and drill down how she's going to reduce it. Because boarding houses went up in the last census, but where we were able to work closely with the Queensland state government, for example, to look at how we could reduce homelessness in boarding houses in Queensland, where the coalition government sent a joint letter with the Labor minister in Queensland, Mick de Brenny at the time, to all private boarding house owners about how they could improve their boarding houses to ensure that it went from homelessness to housed. Guess what? The Queensland figures dropped. It was the only state that dropped. So in the 2016 census, there was 3,600 people living in boarding houses that were considered homeless because the tenants there had no privacy. You've got 20 people in a boarding house with 1 or 2 showers and 1 toilet and a kitchen as big as the one in my office here in Parliament House. That dropped down to 2,947. So a reduction of 653 people in boarding houses after the joint letter sent by the coalition government and the Labor government in Queensland. Guess what? None of the other states wanted to do it, and all their homelessness figures in boarding houses went up. So what Minister Collins would be good to do is look at how she could look at that letter, send it out to other states as well, and get them perhaps to address boarding houses in their states, because boarding houses, apart from Queensland, went up in the last census. The other thing that went up as well was supported accommodation. That's basically housing for women and children escaping DV. We actually built 6,000 of them in government, the coalition, under the Safer Places legislation that we brought in. So that went from 21,000 to 235, in 2016 to 24,291 in 2021. The minister could ensure that those safe places give tenants a lease for a minimum of 3 periods, and you'd actually move all of those people out of homelessness. Some of these properties are brand new, but the people living in them are still considered homeless because they don't have a lease. The other thing is that the Labor government, not just here but in the states, talks down the private sector and the Greens to see what they're doing. The reality is that 90% of housing is in the private sector, and at the moment you've got mums and dads that would normally look at buying an investment property. They're running from buying an investment property, running as fast as they can because of all the interest rate rises, because of the insurance, because of the inflation under Treasurer Chalmers. All of this stuff is going up, and mum and dad investors are running. Labor, we know deep down in their core, want to tax these people more. In the 2019 election, they wanted to get rid of negative gearing, they wanted to increase capital gains tax, a whole lot of taxes they wanted to bring in, and we know, I don't know whether it's Labor left or right, but some of them, deep down, they don't support the private sector when it comes to housing, even though 90% of the housing is provided by mum and dads. The only way you're going to fix this problem is to get investors to build more housing. You are not going to build enough social housing, and you're not going to build enough community housing. In Queensland, the Palaszczuk Labor government ignored community housing for 8 years. What did we do in this space? Well, it was us, under Minister Sukkar at the time, that set up NIFIC, right? The National Housing Finance Investment Corporation. Labor, in their wisdom, want to rename that. Fine. At the end of the day, what did we do? Another thousands and thousands more places for community housing. Thousands and thousands. It was also us that set up the First Home Super Savers Scheme, the First Home Deposit Scheme and the Family Home Guarantee. The First Home Super Savers Scheme, you all voted against it. Labor members in this room and in the government voted against it. And what have you done since coming into government for people wanting to buy their first home? nothing. Do better. You don't own the space. We'll keep advocating and talking about this. Thank you.